My wife passed away when my sons were 8 and 4, respectively. Since then, I've remarried, and my new wife and I have been married for some 11 years now. She was married before and had a daughter of her own from a past marriage. Her ex-husband's story is its own saga, but suffice it to say, he's alive but isn't in their life anymore. When we married, my stepdaughter was 12, now 23. For 11 years, I tried to make some bridges, and I would get her gifts and ensure she always got what she wanted. I did everything I could to make her happy. I would drive her to school, be her extracurricular, and pay for the nicest private schools I could. Not to mention, I worked day and night so I could give her the lifestyle she deserved. My wife is a housewife, a choice she made after she voluntarily quit her job in marketing. I tried my best and treated her just like my sons, but she continued to hate me. This came to a head when my stepdaughter graduated about 5 years ago. When my eldest son had invited my wife, his stepmom, to his graduation, my stepdaughter refused to invite me. She had 2 tickets, but she only invited her mother. Her grandparents refused as they live in my wife's native country. When I asked why, she said, "You're not my dad. You didn't raise me, and I don't want you in my life." I was heartbroken. I tried very hard for her to like me, but she hated me. Still, I paid for her college. I paid for both of my sons' college. Nevertheless, a few months back, she informed my wife that she would be getting married. I only found out what my wife told me. Even more devastating was that she said she would come home to celebrate, and I bought a cake, balloons, and so much more. Then last minute she changed plans. She just told my wife that she should come over to our apartment without my sons and me. I was shattered. When I eventually called to congratulate her, she just tried to end the conversation as quickly as possible. The last thing I asked was maybe the honor of having a father-daughter dance with her, which she shot down. I said nothing. But then I got the bill for $160,000, and my wife said she needed some extra money for her daughter's wedding. I considered it long and hard, but clearly, as she didn't consider me her father, I said I wouldn't be paying for her wedding. I told my wife that she had the money saved up. It was her choice to use that if she wanted, but I would not be paying for her wedding. She was furious at me, and she said she barely had any money saved up, and I was an awful person. I've received calls from my wife's family telling me that I should pay, mainly her immediate family, like my father-in-law and brother-in-law. The whole thing has become a mess. It has divided our family, but I'm still holding my ground. Am I the idiot? Edit. I want to also clarify that this is going to be far from a minor financial inconvenience. While I am sufficiently wealthy, it's still not something that'll go easy on my bank account. My wife's family is Indian, her ex-husband was Indian, and my stepdaughter is Indian. Her wedding's gonna have probably around 400 to 600 people. Also, we had a baby boy. It wasn't planned and he's a toddler now, after my daughter graduated. I assure you, my stepdaughter was just as cold with me before the baby and the event at her graduation happened before my daughter knew about the pregnancy. $160,000? And you're not invited? Why on earth would you pay for this? You are not the idiot. She's used to using your money. That should have stopped long ago, but now is as good a time as any. Frankly, your wife holds a lot of responsibility as to why your stepdaughter doesn't respect you. It would appear you're paying for private school and paying for her college is not a good enough reason for your wife to have some very strong conversations with your daughter about respect and what family actually means. The wife is a straight-up gold digger. I really hope OP has a prenup that is enforced when he divorces her, which he very much should. I wonder if the wife's family has ever seen OP as anything more than an ATM. Now that the ATM has refused to dispense any more money, they're furious. How much more is OP supposed to bend over backward for them? Just say good riddance, OP. You'll be better off without them. Yeah, she's Indian. We Indians are proud people, but she's none of that. She treated this generous man worse than a stranger after he spent so much time, effort, and money on her. Any Indian would show at least some appreciation, or at least they would not accept so much when they can't even give a little kindness in return. But the girl kept taking everything and giving back, not even a sliver of kindness. Heck, my bio dad didn't even pay for any of my college. But I need to ask, why did you ask for a father-daughter dance when you know she doesn't feel that way about your relationship? I understand and respect that you tried to treat her as your own. You treated her above and beyond when maybe she didn't deserve it. But do you feel that maybe you overstepped throughout her life? It made her so uncomfortable that she didn't even want a relationship with you. Update. Am I the idiot for refusing to spend my money on my stepdaughter's wedding? After much thinking and long conversation with my wife and I decided. Firstly, my wife understands where I'm coming from. In the original conversation with my wife, I put my foot down without properly explaining my reasoning behind that decision. I was just angry, and I should have communicated better. After explaining, however, my wife sympathized with me and said she didn't know what the right thing to do here was either, but she said she'd do whatever I think is right. We came to the following conclusion. For what it's worth, we'll give her $50,000. This is more than plenty for a great wedding. It's less than a third of the $160,000 she wanted from us, and a fourth of the estimated $200,000 her wedding would cost. Not to mention, her fiancé's dad is giving her around $50,000. My wife also further informed our daughter that neither of us would be attending the wedding. This was a decision my wife made of her own volition. After informing her on the call, she came to our home to pick up the check. We told her that this would be the last money we would be giving her. She stated it was better that we cut her out of our life anyway, as she didn't want me to ruin her new life. My wife and I were angry, but everyone held their tongue. Finally, she left and she'll no longer be a part of our life. Dude, I would call the bank and cancel the payment on the check after her last comment. Your wife must be so proud of the daughter she raised. Jesus, you certainly are a very gracious, generous man and father who has done much to support, educate, and financially cover quite a bit. I am completely astonished that this young woman has treated you so abominably, denying that you're a father figure in her life, even though you financially support her mother and this horrible brat. The fact that she seemingly hated you, yet had no qualms about taking your money, is not only completely outrageous, but also so extremely hypocritical. I really wish you had refused to pay for her. I'm truly sorry that she's been not only disdainful of your efforts, but also maliciously cruel towards your feelings. Please create a will or update it that completely disowns this malicious woman. She doesn't deserve any inheritance after treating you so poorly, but it's almost guaranteed that she'll fight your bio children for what she feels is her rightful due. If you can easily blow $50K, I guess that's a small price to pay to get rid of this headache forever. I hope you can move on from this and find love in your children. She isn't worth feeling sad over, OP. No offense. If she darkens your doorstep in the future, please stick to your word and don't help her. It sucks that you lost someone who you considered family, but you can now focus on your other children and give them everything they deserve. You have a lot of love to give. Save it for the right people. My best friend, Chris, and I are expecting our first babies with our wives. My wife is 36-ish weeks. I believe Chris's wife, Polly, is around 28 weeks. Chris and I are very different in how we treat our wives in their pregnancies. Chris still has Polly do a lot, whereas I'll take the weight off my wife in any possible way I can. Even small things, mainly because I feel utterly useless, and I don't want my wife straining herself to do things I could easily do myself while she's growing my baby, and uncomfortable anyway. But I guess I messed up the other day. So Chris and Polly invited us out on their boat to go swimming and fishing. My wife was a bit uncomfortable because she's getting closer to her due date and is just afraid of going into early labor. so her anxiety is a bit heavier than usual. Well, Chris kept asking Polly to get up and do crap for him, and I would go right behind her and say, "No, sit down, I've got it," and essentially did the same thing I would do with my wife. Well, there's a store along the lake that we stopped off at so I could grab some beers, and Polly asked me to grab her a few things, so I did, a mixture of snacks and drinks, like 4 to 5 items. When I got back to the boat, my wife looked in the bag I got and was immediately angry and didn't talk to anyone for easily an hour. I had no idea why she was so upset. So when we stopped and Chris and Polly jumped in to swim, I asked what was wrong. And she was like, "Pretty darn pathetic that you get her literally everything she asked for, and you couldn't even get me the one thing I asked for." I told her I didn't hear her ask for anything. And she said, "Yeah, because you were so busy doting on someone else's pregnant wife, you couldn't pay attention to what your own wife was saying." I honestly didn't hear her, but then Chris got back on the boat a bit later and looked at my wife and said, "Where's your drink?" And my wife just glared at me. So apparently my buddy heard my wife, but I didn't, which of course just adds fuel to my wife's anger because it looks really bad. I was right beside my wife, and Chris was on the other side of the boat, so I should have heard her. Later on in the night, she told me that she's never been so uncomfortable in her life because Polly and Chris both noticed that I didn't get my wife the one thing she asked for after getting Polly everything she asked for, so it embarrassed her, and that she's not comfortable with me doting on Chris's wife at all, and that she doesn't want to hang out with them for a while because she's now insecure over this. I was just trying to be nice. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You're getting off the boat and took a grocery list for another woman. Even if you didn't hear your wife, an actual doting husband would say something like, "Hey babe, is there anything you want from the market?" So you didn't hear or ask her because you were so busy being a honey for another woman. Your wife should be enraged right now. You were so busy trying to show up your buddy for not meeting his responsibilities. You messed up and ignored your own responsibilities. This doesn't make sense. If you've been bending over backward to make your wife's life convenient for the past 30-ish weeks, then I doubt she'd react this strongly the one time you messed up and didn't listen. Have you asked your wife's perspective on how you've been during her pregnancy? It's possible you haven't been as helpful as you think. The way your wife reacted, I just can't imagine that this is the first time you've made her feel that way. My 28 male background. In the house I grew up in, everyone would eat whatever food my parents made and be thankful for it. I can't recall anything tasting bad, but even foods I don't like, I just wouldn't eat and never modified them. It's just the way it's always been. I can't even imagine one of my siblings doing it to my parents, or my parents doing it to one another. Back to my girlfriend, 24. I love her very much. Still, she sometimes does strange things to food that makes me feel unappreciated for whatever reason I can't explain. For instance, I bought protein bars coated in dark chocolate. I shared them with her. Later, I saw a bunch of them naked in a plastic bag. She cut off the coating and left the center. She said she doesn't like the center, but the chocolate is tasty. I suggested I buy her dark chocolate since this is a waste, but she said she didn't like that specific chocolate and I could just eat the center if I'd like. No, I don't just want to eat the center. I want to enjoy the entire protein bar. Another example from today is that I made chicken curry. She had it before, and she said she really liked it. Today, I walked into her washing the cooked chicken bits and rinsing them in water. I was really confused. She started laughing and said, "Don't look at me." I didn't find it funny. It was quite offensive. It was a waste of food and just disrespect to my cooking. This started an argument, which led to her crying. She has the right to eat her food however she wants, but this doesn't change the fact that I find it upsetting when she wastes food and messes with my cooking. I asked her how she would feel if I did the same with her cooking, to which she responded, "I want you to enjoy the food in the way you like it." So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Washing the what off the chicken curry? The only way that would even be remotely considered a normal thing to do as if she has some intolerance or allergy to it, and it doesn't seem like that's the case here. I've never seen anyone wash the spice off of a curried meat, unless they were feeding it to a toddler who wanted the same meal as the family, in which case it would be pretty normal in the interest of avoiding a tantrum, etc. I'm stuck on how she wasted OP's money by scraping off the chocolate for herself and leaving naked granola bars for him, as if she did him a favor. That's beyond not appreciating the cost of things, in my opinion. It's not caring about OP's feelings at all. After all, she thinks it's perfectly fine to waste his food and leave him scraps because she believes she's entitled to taking the best parts for herself. Unreal. This is the red flag. This is the mark of an utterly self-centered person. At 2 years old, you expect this behavior. By 24, a person should have some empathy for the other people around them and behave accordingly. Dude, run, or spend your life surviving on scraps. And I don't mean just food. All your needs will be fulfilled with leftovers, if at all. I'm male 33, am a single dad to my daughter, teen. She's my buddy, and I honestly love her so much. My sister, female 38, has 3 boys, and has made being a boy mom her entire personality. She always goes on about how she loves being a boy mom and how raising boys is so much easier than having a girl. I usually just ignore it. My daughter's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and I took her to the opener night of the Eras tour. I am not a Taylor Swift fan, honestly, but it was really fun seeing my daughter have so much fun and just overall being so happy. Last night, I was over at my mom's, and my daughter pretty much only wanted to talk about the concert. My sister happened to be there too. My daughter talked about having to wait about an hour to get merch. My sister laughed and ended up going on a rant, saying how she's so glad she doesn't have a daughter and how easy it is to raise boys compared to girls. She even went as far as to say she felt bad for me having to be a girl dad. My daughter didn't want to talk anymore and was clearly upset by my sister's words. That was very upsetting to me. I told my sister she was wrong to say those things, especially in front of my daughter, and that she's toxic and honestly stupid for thinking raising boys is easier than raising girls. I told her she needed to find a new personality outside of being a boy mom. She ended up leaving while calling me the biggest idiot. My mom also accused me of being rude and an idiot because my sister just loves her boys, and I shouldn't judge her for thinking girls would be more difficult to raise. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It sounds like your sister's projecting. If she had 3 kids on purpose, she 100% wanted a girl and just never got one. So now that she's done having kids, she's using her anti-girl rhetoric and boy mom perspective as a coping strategy. That's just a guess though. Either way, it's super weird of her to hyperfixate on the gender of her children that much and just plain rude to impose that on your daughter. Good for you for standing up for her. Oh, she's just a filthy misogynist. Unfortunately, some people actually think the way this sister does, and it was super important for OP to say that in front of the daughter. That kind of talk is damaging to young girls. Lots of people think boys are easier to raise just because they only bother to parent girls and do nothing with their boys. Oh my God, this. Anyone who thinks boys are easier to raise is dropping the ball massively. Gender is irrelevant. Children are individuals. OP, she basically laughed at your daughter's personality and interest. You weren't rude because she loves her boys. You were rude because she insulted your daughter in front of her. And your mom is an idiot too, LOL. Wow, she's actually defending the same bad behavior in your sister as you're being accused of. Very toxic and pathetic.